data structure. Now let's look at a more concrete incarnation of trees.
It's really a shame that we don't have a problem set on it in this year's implementation of CS50, but this is probably one of my favorite topics in CS. I love Huffman coding. I just love the trajectory of 6 weeks ago, we're talking about zeros and ones and eventually extrapolating this to ASCII, that 8-bit or 7-bit character encoding scheme. And now we're sort of trying to turn that on its head and saying, well, actually, if you're clever about it, you can represent data with 5 bits or 4 bits or 3 bits with clever manipulation of data structures.
I agree. And it's a really nice way of applying some of the more theoretical stuff that we're doing around this point in the semester to a very real-world problem, one that students can wrap their mind around, and also something they probably hadn't necessarily thought about how that's possible, and yet, much like some of our earlier examples in the semester, it's really just reduced to these fundamental principles. You have the zeros and ones, you have the ASCII representation on top of that, and once you understand the world at that level of detail, can you do any number of things with it, including compress.
Yeah, it is too bad that we don't have the P set anymore. It's I think we last did it maybe 4 years ago
or so. It just was never great for C. There's so much passing around of pointers and these structures that it always felt like a perfect opportunity to motivate like object-oriented programming, which we don't just get with C. So maybe we could bring it back now with Python or with a higher level language, because I too like it, but it's a trade-off. There's so many other things we want to do too that it makes for a nice example in class, but it does kind of steer us away from the mainline message because it's very much focused now on an example.
I also enjoyed the fun of it. The problem set there were 2 parts. There was a standard edition and a hacker edition. You had Huff and Puff, and it had the Big Bad Wolf theme to it. So if you want to take a look at it, you can find it on CS50.tv from 2012 or maybe a little bit earlier. But yeah, hopefully we can bring this back at some point as maybe as a Python to problem set with object-oriented as opposed to having to build more of an API to hide the bit masking and other.
Indeed, and that was what was nice about that problem set, in that we had to predefine some of the functionality that students would implement, because we had to give them, I think, 1/2 of it. They had to implement Puff and we implemented Huff, or vice versa, so that they wouldn't have to do the entire thing from scratch. But that means adhering to what basic API we had spec'd out for them.
Some letters are more common